This could be the most significant innovation in hearing care since the invention of the receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid. Receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid technology has dominated the hearing aid market since around 2012. In fact, today, over 80% of all hearing aids dispensed in the United States are receiver-in-the-ear devices. Why are they so popular? Because of their versatility, their comfort, their feature capabilities, as well as their performance. They can be used to fit nearly every different type of hearing loss severity and configuration. In most cases, they feel like you're not even wearing anything. They have all of the latest and greatest features such as rechargeability and wireless connectivity. And from a performance standpoint, you just can't get any better than a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid. However, that may no longer be true thanks to the recent announcement of the new Oticon Zeal hearing aid that Oticon has placed into what they call their new NXT category of hearing aid style. But before I get into how Oticon's new hearing aid could completely change the landscape of hearing care, as well as other updates and releases that I'll be sharing at the end of this video, do me a huge favor and click the like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that as well. It's greatly appreciated. And a shout out to Oticon for sponsoring today's video and letting me experience this new technology firsthand before the rest of the world even knew about it. The new Oticon Zeal is the first hearing aid to do it all unseen, thanks to its combination of sound quality, connectivity, rechargeability, flexible fitting options, and in-the-ear discreetness. This new style is what Oticon calls their flexible fit NXT hearing aid. Much like a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid, this hearing aid can be used with either a rubber dome or a custom ear mold. However, there is nothing that goes behind the ear, making it less visible, and still performs a lot like a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid with all the same great features that hearing aid users know and love. Now, I'm gonna be honest, when Oticon first told me about the Zeal hearing aid a few months ago, the first thing that came to mind was, I've heard this before. There's no way that they created a small, rechargeable, flexible fit CIC-sized hearing aid that has the durability, comfort, battery life, and wireless connectivity of a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid. So to prove it to me, they flew me out to their Denmark headquarters so I could experience it for myself. Now, if you want to see the full vlog of my trip to Denmark, to Oticon headquarters, and their research facility, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on so you get a notification as soon as I drop it. Oh, and stand by for a full detailed review video of the Oticon Zeal as well. First, let me cover some of the basics of this new hearing aid. The Zeal comes in Oticon's top-tier technology level, and it has a fixed receiver that can amplify for hearing losses up to 75 decibels. It uses the Sirius chip, which is trained with Oticon's second-generation deep neural network, which means that it uses the same always-on artificial intelligence sound processing and second-generation DNN-based noise reduction that you can find inside of the Oticon Intent hearing aid. Its rechargeable lithium-ion battery can give you up to 20 hours of battery life with 4 hours of streaming on only a 2-hour charge, and somehow they were able to fit a motion sensor inside of this extremely small hearing aid for tap controls. The angle of the device allows it to fit inside of an ear canal a lot more like a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid does, while still limiting the potential for feedback. The genius of the Oticon Zeal is the first of its kind encapsulation process during manufacturing that keeps this hearing aid as small and as durable as possible. Instead of creating an outer shell and then having to figure out a way to place and orient all of the internal components inside of that shell, Oticon decided to create an optimal layout of all the internal components and then encapsulate all of those components with the outer shell. Similar to how in the movie Jurassic Park, tree sap encapsulates a mosquito, trapping the DNA of a dinosaur inside of this amber until it can be extracted by researchers to bring dinosaurs back to life. This is essentially how Oticon creates their Zeal hearing aid, getting it as small as possible with an IP68 rating. According to Oticon, this device is incredibly discreet, as 94% of individuals who wore the Zeal with a rubber dome having a fit that was either invisible or slightly visible. And don't get me wrong, all of that stuff is great, but any audiologist who's being presented with the new hearing aid, especially if that hearing aid is not a receiver-in-the-ear style, is how good does the hearing aid actually perform? Now, this is not my full detailed review video of the Oticon Zeal hearing aid, as I only got to play around with it and wear it for about 6 hours instead of a full 2 weeks like I normally do in a detailed review. But what I can tell you is that the Oticon Zeal hearing aid performs as close to a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid as any hearing aid I've ever tested without it being a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid. Of course, my biggest concern was how much amplification could I actually get from the Zeal? And while I needed to use a custom molded ear tip in order for me to hit my prescriptive targets, my wife Ashley was easily able to use a vented rubber dome in order to hit her prescriptive targets verified with real ear measurement. As far as how they sounded, Well, they sounded like an Oticon receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid, which is exactly what Oticon's goal was. The next burning question, of course, is connectivity. It is compatible with both Apple devices and Android devices. The Odicon Zeal also has LE audio, Bluetooth, and Auracast capabilities. But how did they fit all of this wireless connectivity inside of this extremely small hearing aid? Well, they elected to make the removal string and retention filament the wireless antenna. And while this is not the first time that this strategy has been used by a hearing aid manufacturer, I have to say that Oticon's execution of it was impeccable. The antenna wraps itself around the concha bowl of your ear so it doesn't stick out of your ear and it's hardly visible. And it transmits best when it has at least 50% of that antenna contacting your ear. The Zeal is also compatible with Google's Fast Pair, making pairing with an Android device a breeze, and it even gives you quick native controls. This way you don't always have to access the Oticon companion app to make adjustments on your devices. The stability and sound quality of the LE audio Bluetooth was amazing, but the Auracast was on a different level. I was able to walk nearly into another building away from the Auracast transmitter and still be able to maintain the Auracast broadcast signal, something that could never be done with a telecoil inside of a public venue. And to get this type of wireless performance from a flexible fit, CIC-sized hearing aid is unbelievable. Speaking of Auracast, Oticon will also be releasing a firmware update to their Oticon Intent receiver-in-the-ear hearing aids to make it compatible with Auracast. Oticon has also released a rechargeable mini BTE Intent hearing aid for individuals who want the performance of a receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid inside of a BTE style that uses an ear hook, tube, and custom ear mold. Now you might be wondering, when are all of these new releases going to be available to you? Well, the update to allow Auracast inside of the Oticon Intent hearing aid as well as the rechargeable mini BTE Intent hearing aid depends on where you live, and if you live in the United States, these will become available in November of 2025. The Oticon Zeal will initially be available in Denmark, the United Kingdom, as well as Switzerland, so make sure that you reach out and contact your hearing care professional if you live there. If you live in the United States, you're gonna have to wait a bit longer because it's not going to be made available in the US market until early 2026. Why? Because of the production requirements that are going to be required to satisfy the expected demand in the massive US hearing aid market. So what do I recommend if you live in the United States? I recommend that you contact your hearing care professional's office and ask them to put you on a waiting list for whenever this hearing aid gets released. Otherwise, chances are you could be waiting a while even after it's released. But I want to hear from you. Would you be interested in replacing your existing receiver-in-the-ear hearing aid technology with Oticon's all-new NXT category of hearing aid that has the same features and similar performance as a receiver-in-the-ear device? Let me know down in the comment section. Otherwise, make sure you're following along for my full Denmark vlog video as well as my detailed review video of the Oticon Zeal, and I'll see you in the next video.